The Strait of Hormuz is closed. This thin ribbon of water, spanning only 34,000 square kilometers, has become a naval graveyard. Following the outbreak of conflict with Iran, the passage that once served as the primary artery for global energy has been physically blockaded. Marine traffic is at a total standstill. Every 24 hours, 21 million barrels of oil normally pass through this choke point. That is 20% of global consumption. With the blockade in place, that supply vanished. The immediate effect is a vertical spike in the price of West Texas Intermediate. The geography of Texas makes it uniquely vulnerable to this shock. This is a landmass larger than any country in Western Europe, where the average resident drives over 16,000 miles every year. Public transit infrastructure remains concentrated in tiny urban pockets, leaving the vast majority of the population dependent on heavy internal combustion vehicles to reach their places of employment. Gasoline has reached $10 a gallon. For a worker driving a standard heavy-duty pickup from the suburbs of Houston to the refineries on the coast, a single day of commuting now costs more than $50. The basic financial structure of the Texas household is failing under the weight of the fuel pump. The math of the daily commute has turned negative. For millions of workers, the cost of the fuel required to get to the office or the job site is consuming the take-home pay earned during the shift. Families are currently forced to decide whether to maintain their employment or their caloric intake. Texas remains the energy capital of the Western Hemisphere. Beneath the scrub brush of the Permian basin lies an ocean of hydrocarbons. The state produces over 5 million barrels of oil every single day, more than most sovereign nations. A local supply of this magnitude should provide a natural hedge against Middle Eastern instability. The physical resource is extracted, processed, and refined within the state's own borders. Instead, the residents of the most energy-rich region in North America are facing financial ruin at the pump. Despite living on top of the world's most productive oil fields, the working class is being bled dry by energy costs. The energy heartland is currently suffering an acute energy poverty. The crisis 7,000 miles away in the Persian Gulf has triggered a localized economic collapse in the very place that fuels the rest of the country. Texas crude is a globally traded commodity, flowing to the highest bidder. With Hormuz closed, desperate foreign refineries paying massive premiums outbid local distributors. This global demand pulls supply outward, leaving Texas gas stations competing against the purchasing power of entire nations. This strain on supply triggers a collapse in the logistics sector. The Texas trucking industry moves over 1 billion tons of freight annually. It is the connective tissue of the state's economy, responsible for everything from medical supplies to construction materials. Diesel prices have moved beyond the reach of independent operators. The profit margins for freight have been erased by the cost of the fuel tank. Thousands of trucking companies are facing immediate liquidation as their operating costs exceed their total revenue. These transportation costs are being added to the price of every item on the shelf. In the supermarkets of Dallas and San Antonio, the price of milk, the price of beef, and bread has doubled. The state is experiencing a form of imported hyperinflation. Global market mechanics have effectively transformed a distant regional war in the Middle East into a severe domestic cost of living crisis. The blockade has resulted in a local famine of affordable goods. The Federal Reserve is now responding to this wave of energy-driven inflation. The central bank is bound by a mandate to restore price stability, regardless of the source of the price hikes. To combat the rising cost of goods, the Fed is aggressively tightening the money supply. They are using their only effective tool to suppress consumer demand and prevent an inflationary spiral. Interest rates are being held at punishing levels. Borrowing money for a car, a business, or a home has become prohibitively expensive. This policy is designed to slow the economy down until prices stop rising, but the resulting collateral damage is immense. The Texas housing market has frozen. New construction projects have been abandoned because the cost of financing is no longer sustainable. Builders are walking away from half-finished developments across the state. The war in the Middle East has locked the Texas real estate market into a prolonged depression. High interest rates are preventing any hope of a near-term recovery, ensuring the economic pain will persist long after the initial oil shock. While the average citizen struggles, the energy infrastructure of the state is generating record revenues. The high prices at the pump represent a direct inflow of capital to the companies managing the extraction and refining process. The $10 per gallon paid by the working class is being captured by the energy sector. This is a massive movement of wealth from the pockets of commuters into the accounts of the industry's top-tier stakeholders. The destination for this wealth is concentrated in the corporate offices of Houston and Dallas. These cities are seeing a surge in capital, even as the surrounding neighborhoods face economic exhaustion. This chart tracks the windfall profits generated by the crisis. Instead of reinvesting this capital into lowering domestic costs, these companies are executing multi-billion-dollar stock buybacks. This process reduces the number of shares on the market, concentrating wealth among executives and large institutional investors. Middle-class savings are being converted into corporate dividends. The suffering of the Texas driver is the primary funding source for the historic profits of the state's energy elite. Economic data points to a booming Texas energy sector. On paper, the state is wealthier than ever. But this metric ignores the lived experience of the population. The Middle Eastern conflict has fractured the state's economy. The wealth of the resource is no longer serving the people who live above it. A state defined by its energy abundance has created a system that leaves its own people powerless and poor. The machinery of the energy heartland continues to turn, but it is no longer fueled by the prosperity of the Texans who keep it running.